Catskill, New York, and the Hudson River, and the first stop on the Bassmaster Tournament Trail. This is where it begins, where 284 Bassmasters go for $137,000 in cash and awards and take their first big step down the road to the 1987 Bassmaster Classic World Finals. It's a great tournament with a well-deserving champion, and a tournament where the words fishing companion takes on a whole new meaning. I'm Ray Scott. Don't go away. We'll be right back from the Bassmasters Invitational in Catskill, New York.
The Hudson River. From here you can travel by boat north to Albany, New York, or motor south to New York City on 150 miles of navigable water that found its place in history 377 years ago. That was when explorer Henry Hudson, the person for whom this river is named, first sailed here, to this very place at Catskill, New York. When Hudson's ship dropped anchor here on September 15, 1609, the ship's historian appropriately wrote that at night we came to other mountains which lie from the river's side. Our boat went to fish and caught great store of very good fish. Today there are still very good fish here, but between that day in 1609 and now, things changed. Man polluted the Hudson River, dropping waste into the water till fires broke out on its surface. But after many years of erring, man cleaned the Hudson River, ridding it of what he had created. Today, this river is alive with commerce and recreation, and fishermen searching for a great store of very good fish. The New York Invitational, the first Bass Angler Sportsman Society tournament of the 1987 season. For the winner, there'll be $32,000 in cash and awards. And while the prize money is one magnet for these Bassmasters, so are the points they'll earn here for the pounds and ounces of bass they catch. Points that will accumulate during the next 5 tournaments on the road to the Bassmasters Classic. At that time, the top 35 anglers will head to the Classic, the World Championship of Professional Bass Angling. Most of these Bassmasters have fished the Hudson before, either as local anglers who frequently compete here or as touring pros who fished the Hudson during the 1984 New York Invitational. The time is October, and the conditions are different from 2 years ago. Bass and great Roland Martin won that 1984 tournament on the Main River. But due to cooler water temperatures, the local anglers say the fishing on the Main River has not been as good as in other years. Those knowledgeable of the Hudson favor the creeks, where the water's warmer this time of year. But they also know it's certainly possible for someone to find a concentration of really good fish on the river. The creeks are known for quantities of bass, the Main River for quality bass. Regardless of where they fish, these Bassmasters must master one element if they're to catch bass: the tide.
Here on the Hudson, the fishermen are going to have to contend with one major obstruction during the tournament. That is the tidal change. Here in Catskill, we have a tide change twice a day that runs between 4 and 5 feet, depending on the conditions evolving around it. If the wind blows from the south and the tide is coming in, we'll get an abnormally higher tide. And if the wind is from the north and the tide is coming in, we'll get an abnormally low tide. And a lot of the fishermen that aren't from around the area, who have never fished this area, are going to have to contend with this for the 3 days of the tournament. And some days they may fish in one location that, for instance, has 4 feet of water and catch a lot of fish, and the next day coming back, there won't be any water and no fish there.
Wednesday, first day of competition. Conditions are different today than they were in practice. For the last 2 days, a strong south wind made this river an ocean, preventing many of the anglers from scouting the areas far south. But today, as the fishermen leave the checkout area, it's calm, at least for the moment. The rules for this tournament state a bass must be at least 12 inches long to be eligible for the scales. The limit is 5 bass, either smallmouth or largemouth, per day. Anglers are allowed to cull bass as long as they do not have more than 5 in their possession. 2 ounces are subtracted from the angler's catch if he weighs in a dead fish. A popular tournament strategy is to first go for a limit of 5 keeper bass, regardless of size. The fishermen then try to catch larger fish, culling the smaller ones. Within an hour after the tournament starts, anglers fishing in Esopus Creek, south of Catskill, are already culling their catch. It's obvious that not only is there a lot of competition here, but also there are a lot of bass. As the winds come up from the north, turning the main river into a roller coaster, more and more anglers find their way into this protected creek. The theory advanced for the huge concentration of bass here is that the colder river water has pushed the bait fish and the bass into the warmer water creeks, like this one. Regardless of the numbers of fish here, however, the tide is still a major influence as to when these fish bite. Most strikes coming on either side of high or low tide changes. Lower weights are predicted for this tournament, but as the fishermen come to the scales this first day, it's obvious the cream comes to the top, that the pros have winning ways. Pros like Woo Daves of Virginia.
And Woo has the limited bass. Woo's a classic contender, has won one of our national tournaments. He's a great angler, and he's has a remarkable bunch of fish. I'm going to say these fish are going to go at least 10 pounds. At least, all right. Would you believe we're starting off, folks, with 15 pounds, 10 ounces. Nice hand for Woo Daves, Woo.
Tidal fishing is a mystery to many, and former Bassmasters classic champ Hank Parker explains why.
I think that the way that the fish are being caught here, at least the way that I'm catching the fish and caught them in practice as well, the fish move with the tide, and the tide comes in and out, and the fish just come in schools. Like I fished today for 4.5 hours in one little place and didn't get a bite. And then all of a sudden, in 5 minutes in a grass line, I caught 5 fish. And that's kind of the way it works. The people that are catching the fish are people that are staying in one area and just working up and down like on one barge or one set of piling and just working up and down and waiting on the tide to move the fish, or actually waiting the fish to come to them.
Stay tuned. The Bassmasters will be right back for a visit to the Catskill Coffee Club, meeting in the Creek of the Week. And be ready to witness a surprise turn of events in the New York Invitational. Day 2 of the Bassmaster New York Invitational is different. The weather is calm and overcast with a light drizzle. And here to Esopus Creek, the Creek of the Week, the anglers flock. Some were here yesterday. Some heard about it yesterday. And some just want to join the fun. As they park their boats and cast and cast and cast some more into the same tiny area they're staking claim to, many liken the unlikely tournament scene to a coffee club meeting, or at least to a lot of the good old boys just having a good time. But regardless of the boat traffic, these anglers catch fish, like Florida's Roland Martin does here in the traffic. Roland won this tournament 2 years ago, some 60 miles downriver, and far, far from the maddening crowd. As to why he's fishing elbow to elbow is puzzling to some, but not to Roland.
Well, I think getting away from the crowd is a perfect strategy for winning this tournament. However, all the places that people aren't fishing have no fish. It just seems like this tournament, because of the weather and the time of year, there's really about 10 or 15,000 bass in these couple creeks. And practically, well, the whole tournament is fishing the creeks. And I don't think there's 10% of the boats fishing the river. It's just that they're stacked in these creeks, and everybody's going to be in competition with one another. And it's going to be whoever has the most efficiency in this situation. I'm using light tackle. Today, I've already missed one 2.5-pound fish right at the boat. I have a 3-pounder and a 2-pounder, but I really should have had 4 fish. So my efficiency's a little off. I'm sharpening my hooks. I'm using 6-pound line. I'm have a well-adjusted drag, but nevertheless, there's a few 4- and 5-pound fish in these creeks, and the angler that catches those 1 or 2 big ones a day will win.
Megabucks champ Roger Farmer of Georgia is another pro who opts to fish the crowded creek, staking out a line of boat docks and fishing them over and over and over.
Well, there's so many people back in here, you just try to pick out a little spot where you can stay, and we're picking fish up every pass. So as long as I can pick a fish up every hour, I'm doing, real well. I caught 11 pounds out here yesterday, and I've got about 8 or 9 right now. So if I can wind up with a limit, You know, I'll have another 11 to 13 pounds. I left yesterday at 12 o'clock and should have stayed in here. You don't ever know how everything's going to go. The tide's not really flowing as good as it should. And we're getting it wrong. These fish hit better on a falling tide than they do on a rising tide. For some reason, I don't know why. And we're not having, when we get down here, the tide's already fell. And we're going to sit here today till it starts falling. It'll come back up and then start falling again. And see if we can't pick up some of the better fish.
The second day weigh-in, and with it, a record surprise.
We got a giant hog down here that's going to bust all kinds of records. Lean in here, look at this. 19 pounds, 1 ounce, the largest stringer so far. We're going to weigh the big fish. Hold him up here and weigh him right fast. Set him in there, in the basket. All right, the big fish. I'm not going to bet on him because I can't bet like Ray on these things. So let's go at the big fish, and it's 6 pounds, 12 ounces. That's the largest bass so far in the tournament. All right. 6 pounds, 12 ounces. That's almost a river record for the Hudson River, I believe. Pretty close, isn't it? Hey, you just broke the Hudson River record. These boys in the Bass Club said 6'3" is the local record here.
All right.
And soon there's another turn in the tide of events.
All right, here's a man with a load. Now, what did you have yesterday, David, quickly?
Had 15.
15 pounds for Fenton yesterday, folks, in 5th place. We may have a man who's going to take this tournament over. Watch it closely. And the weight, watch the scales, people. 19 pounds. 6 ounces, 19.6. That's the second largest fish tournament to weight, I believe. That's going to move him without any doubt solidly into first place.
Stay tuned. The Bassmasters will be right back with on-the-spot coverage of the New York Invitational champion as he catches his winning bass and shows you how he's doing it. Dave Fenton starts this last day of the New York Invitational with better than a 4-pound lead. He's fishing about 50 miles south of Catskill, concentrating on a small 150-yard stretch of grass and rocks along the shore. He's been on these fish the entire tournament.
I basically, when I found these fish were over here on the duckweed, on the heavy weeds. And during practice, I was finding them with a spoon. And then Wednesday, the first day of the tournament, we come down here to the north wind, come through on that cold front. It blew most of the duckweed off up against these rocks. I had a pretty tough day trying to catch fish the first day. I only caught 3 good ones down here. And then yesterday, come down here, couldn't get much working, got throwing a spinnerbait a little, and started working these rocks. Anywhere you could usually find this ducktail piled up against these rocks. Be even better, really, if you find one of these bushes hanging over the rocks like this one back here. I'd be laying up under that stuff. Catching most of them on a spinnerbait, on a Stanley Viber shaft spinnerbait. May try that old spoon again here in a minute. Things are kind of slow. Tide's not quite as high yet as it was yesterday when I was catching them good. The tide will be up. When it's right, it'll be right up under the edge of those trees. Those limbs will be in the water.
Although he enjoys a good lead, Dave Fenton must catch fish to win this tournament.
I needed that one. adrenaline surge there.
To a casual observer, it appears Dave Fenton is merely casting and reeling, but there's more to it than just that.
I just worked this whole bank. I've been fishing spinnerbait coming into the current where I can throw up against the tide coming in. Work that spinnerbait by those rocks, and they come out behind those rocks and get them. And George and I here were just talking. Looks like the water's starting to move back this way, so started back this way. I thought I'd just try a little different bait, maybe slow it down a little bit. This water shouldn't be moving this way. But we hit it pretty good with the spinnerbait, so I thought I'd just try slowing it down. Sometime they won't come up and get something like that. Tide's not nearly as high as it was yesterday.
And the limit fish.
What is about them trees? They ain't even touching the water. That's where you caught that one a while ago.
Still shade though, darker where they are.
Does that make 5? I think it does. I got that one little one where I need to go. That's 5. But I need to replace all of them but one.
All right, George Bowman of Arkansas.
The last day weigh-in is cold, windy, and wet as the low-pressure area, which has been building, finally arrives. But at least one angler doesn't seem to mind.
Dave Fenton, who was leading our tournament yesterday by about 4 pounds, hailing from Texas. Let's have a nice welcome as he brings his fish to the scale. All right, he's got to have 6 pounds. Am I correct on that? 6 pounds to pull back in the lead because he's lost the lead by one of the other fishermen. All right, watch the scales. He's got to have 6 pounds to retain the lead. A limit of 5 bass. Weight, 14 pounds, 10 ounces. Folks, I believe we've got our winner. Oh, that is fine.
This Bassmaster New York Invitational is history. And for one angler, Dave Fenton, there is the thrill of victory. His first in a BASS tournament.
If we can help you in any way getting all this money back to Texas, let us know.
Well, I tell you, first of all, Ray, I'd like to thank my wife and my kids. My little boy, I called him last night, called the wife and everybody. They were all excited, but my little boy told me, he says, Daddy, he says, if you catch 30 pounds tomorrow, you can win that tournament. And I said, wow. I said, 5 fish, son. I said, that's a tough row to hoe, but I said, I'll do what I can. So my goal today was 21 pounds. I thought I could do it, but the weather changed a little bit. But I'd like to thank all my sponsors. You know, without them, I couldn't be here. I needed this because I was getting to the point where it was getting where I financially couldn't fish it. So this is going to help me a whole lot and make me happy.